Right then, so I get this crazy idea that since I got my press now, I want to start building my own crankshafts. These things are getting kind of expensive. I watched a few YouTube videos, so that pretty much makes me an expert at this point. So my next step is going to be to build a jig to balance it, and also I need a press plate to go in between the crankshaft sheaves to press the pins out. Got some stuff off the old auction website. Let's open this up and see if this is going to work out for us. Let's get this jig built. Stay tuned. So I got a couple 1/4 inch plates, and this is going to be for our balancing jig. And I also have a piece of 7/16, which we will notch out to go in between our crankshaft sheaves. And we got a bunch of roller bearings. Let's see if we can get this thing built. Got a couple of old bad crankshafts here, and we'll go ahead and measure the large end, and obviously this may need to be modified in the future for different size crankshafts, but let's just start somewhere. About 2.2, just a tick under 2.2. If we go 2 1/4 with our notch, it should be good enough to clear this larger one. And we'll just go 2 1/4 deep as well. This bearing is just a tick over 2 1/4. This is not super critical. I've got this hole saw, but I think this is just for wood. But I'm going to give it a shot. Yeah, taking the rust off of it. This is not the right bit for this. Well, I don't seem to have a hole saw to fit this, so let's try the old jigsaw. Well, I guess I didn't realize I'd be cutting diamond plate. Next, let's try the bandsaw. Well, certainly not the straightest cut, but it worked. If I had a gas axe, I would just oxyacetylene it out. Well, after forever, and while it's not the prettiest thing in the world, it should work just fine for pressing out this crankshaft pin. Alright, I got this set up in the press. Let's see if this will actually work. Of course, if I was doing this for real, I would mark the two sheaves so I know exactly how to put them back together, or close enough. So obviously this bearing is shot in this thing, and that's why it was bad. And the pin is scored really bad. But it pressed it apart, no problem. I'm pretty impressed. Next step is press the pin out completely. Now obviously I know using chrome sockets here is not ideal. But it's what I have right now, and I will get some solid pins for pressing since this does work. And there she is. Let's do a quick test press to see if I can press it back together. Sounded like we hit bottom. That actually looks pretty good. Now obviously if we were doing this for real, we would line our lines up. We would make sure that we keep measurements on the depth of the pin on each of the sheaves, and also compare our measurements to the service manual for gap size here and here. But I'm pretty impressed. I think it's good enough to go ahead and move on to phase 2 and build our balancing jig. Well, now that our first test was successful, had I even marked the crankshaft for proper realignment, take all the measurements on the pin, spaces for the connecting rod, spaces between the sheaves, it's like a 1 in a million chance that I would press this thing back together absolutely perfect.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So this brings us to shop made tool number 2, and I keep calling it a balancer, but technically it's a truing stand. And what that's going to do is get these perfectly in alignment, otherwise it will shake and vibrate and damage bearings. So this is what it looks like. It looks pretty good. I mean, actually it's off quite a bit. I can actually see it. So this point here, I need to make a rig that will support the crankshaft from its bearing supports. So I can rotate it, use a dial indicator on the ends to find out how far out of alignment this crankshaft is. And I really want to make something that's adjustable for different size crankshafts. So I think my plan here is using one of these plates as a base, and the second plate will be an end cap, and then the third plate will slide to be able to be adjustable. I'm thinking about 4 inches will give me a good depth and fit most crankshafts. I would say it probably fit every crankshaft. And on this other side, 4 inches will go right here. That would give me just shy of under 2 inches for the bottom part of the L bracket for adjustment. Grind some bevels on here so we can get a good weld. I finished welding up these brackets with the old Harbor Freight 125 flux core welder. Now you can't blame the welder for these crappy welds. Unfortunately, I do not have a dedicated 20 amp circuit in here right now, so running this thing on max, you get about 1 second of trigger pull and then you got to let it cool for a second. So unfortunately I can't get super nice welds, but this is not super structural, so it'll be fine. Now I'm going to start laying out for the bearings. For some reason I drilled the bearings too far apart, so I just cut a little V-notch in here. So now on this one piece, I just punched a bunch of holes, drilled it out, and I went over to my milling machine, which is basically just my drill with a rat tail file in there, and just smoothed these out, open these holes out so I can slide and have a little bit of adjustment. Now our last step, just doing a little bit of assembly. Now I may in the future weld some washers on this, but I'm not sure if that's going to get in the way or not. So I basically got about 1 inch of adjustability. Obviously if I needed to, I could drill some more holes through here to give myself ultimate flexibility. Now we can take our crankshaft, set it right on our bearings. Next we can get our dial indicators set up. We can see how much run out the crankshaft has. Now this video is not going to get into adjusting the crankshafts. When I do get one in the future, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to replace the rod and do this on my own, and I'll definitely make a video about that. So for today, thanks for watching. Appreciate all your support, more than you realize. Love all the comments. Glad I can help some of you guys out. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.